Now, going over to the culture part of the podcast, you have Daily Wire versus Louder with Crowder 2.0, and Jeremy Boring gets 1.6 million views on the Twitter. Now, they are two of the perhaps most prominent, well-known conservative media companies, bar none. I mean, Fox News is probably as irrelevant as something that's utterly irrelevant these days. Is cassette tapes. I mean, sure, I know perhaps two people who still coveted their little cassette tapes, but most people haven't even thought about it in years. Fox News is pretty much the cassette tape. Yeah, the metaphor does stand. I'll go with that. Now, the Daily Wire is one of the fastest growing conservative media companies. They're headquartered over in Nashville, Tennessee. And then you have Louder Crowder, also one of the fastest growing media companies, conservative based, and they are headquartered over in Texas. Now, Louder Crowder, while they're smaller in headcount, they're having one of the most biggest impacts on the culture war, many are saying. They actually broke the biggest story of the year, I would argue, and I think many people will, when it came out that the Trans Truthers Manifesto, which had been suppressed for months, Louder Crowder broke that story, which broke the internet. I mean, it was trending on Twitter. Everyone was talking about it. And it turns out, interestingly enough, the one time the manifesto from these instances was suppressed was because it was going against the mainstream media narrative. This person was, according to the documents that are revealed, venomously against the white race, had a lot of hate in their heart. They used a lot of pejorative terms that are not used in polite conversation, so to say. Turns out this person was the most morally and mentally vacuous people on the planet. And Steven Crowder broke that story because of his team. Now, Jeremy Boring, historically, there's a conversation between two companies where the Daily Wire made an offer letter to Louder Crowder. And they didn't work out those differences, so they decided to part ways. And there's a big controversy. It basically split the whole conservative community. And people decided to take sides and say one was right, one was wrong. And in doing so, it kind of what's a nice way of saying it, put a dent in the culture war, or put the brakes on the movement for some people in that regard, or put a screwdriver in the spokes of the wheel, perhaps is a better metaphor. It split the community. People having to choose sides, and really lost a lot of momentum, I believe. Now, Jeremy Boring had this tweet, and within a day, he got 1.6 million views. Without further ado, again, Jeremy Boring is the CEO of the Daily Wire. So without further ado, this is what Jeremy Boring said. He says, quote, "Crowder is dishonest, spiteful, narcissistic scumbag who even in his victories can't help but betray most everyone else doing good work in our space, including those who have sued for the release of this manifesto, like the Tennessee Star. As someone who not sufficiently pure or dedicated to or conservative, his, quote, no true Scotsman, quote, shtick is offensive and tired, but credit where it's due, he landed a huge and important scoop here." And interesting enough, so Jeremy is responding to an article from the Daily Wire where they are referencing the Nashville shooter decried, I don't know, crackers and white privilege in the leaked manifesto. And it's one of those things that are very out of character when you look at Jeremy Boring's long-term track in terms of social media. He's doesn't make a lot of direct jabs like that. Now, interestingly enough, if you go to the comments, and again, the conservative movement was kind of split 50-50, or more or less, I feel. And a lot of people will say Crowder is much more conservative than the Daily Wire, and he does much less compromising. So there are many people who feel he's a lot more authentic. Now, in regards to the feedback, I'll go ahead and I'll dive in right there in the comments section. So again, that got, let's see here. I got 5.9 thousand likes from Jeremy Boring's statement out of 1.6 million views. One of the first top comments comes from John Masters, and he says, quote, "Unless Crowder included some dig against the Daily Wire in his reporting, I don't grasp the point of this discretion," unquote. I got 2,000 likes out of 105,000 views. Now, Jeremy Boring did directly respond to this individual, and Jeremy Boring said, quote, he always does, unquote. That got 1.1 thousand likes, 156,000 views. Nate Spinney responded saying, "Is Crowder in the room right now?" unquote, getting 148 likes. Unfortunately, I don't see the exact, if that was done, I don't see the excerpt that Jeremy Boring is referring to. But continuing to go down here, rather, You have someone from the name of Savannah Hernandez. Now she says, quote, "This is the pettiest thing I've ever read in my life. Our own FBI suppressed how white American children were targeted and murdered. Crowder got the scoop, the nation got clarity, and you choose to rehash some old beef that no one was even thinking about." Unquote. Sad. Unquote. That got 8,000 likes, which, as the youth might say, that is certainly a ratio. Now, interestingly enough, no one responded to that direct comment that she made. Someone by the name of B. Scalia said, quote, "This post kind of paints you as many of the insults you listed. Should have said, I don't like Crowder, but this story is important," unquote. And this person got 825 likes, unquote. Jake Shields responds saying, quote, "You could have just retweeted the article," unquote, getting 713 likes. Looks like getting a couple more in the middle in terms of people supporting versus going against Jeremy in the comments. Someone by the name of the Lectern guy says, quote, "I don't like it when mommy and daddy fight," unquote, getting 161 likes, which I think reflects a lot of the sentiment around this cultural situation where you have these two successful media companies that are doing a lot of good. I mean, a lot of people are attributing the Daily Wire, they're part of Bentkey Ventures, and that's their new app and media outlet for children's material, which is going to be less politically slanted. And that's one of the big issues I think in culture today is most of that stuff, aka Disney, is highly political in one direction. So they, like many companies, are creating their own competition. And Crowder is breaking some of the biggest stories out there. So again, it's interesting to see. I think there's a lot of people who want to support both companies, but they feel like they're being pushed to choose one or the other. I can't help but think there's a big sentiment of folks in the middle. Now, nevertheless, going over to the comments, someone by the name of Secondhand Vegan said, quote, "I take it you're one of the people he stated goes to dinner parties with Google, YouTube execs, and Mark Zuckerberg," unquote, getting 620 likes, which Steven Crowder has pointed that out because the Daily Wire has. Daily Wire, like many companies, they spend millions of dollars promoting their talent on those platforms, thereby supporting the platforms that, ironically, are also suppressing them. So it's one of those issues where it is not a direct monopoly, but for social media, there are less than a handful if you kind of count them off. And there is a pay to play in terms of you can pay so that your post is promoted and more people see it. And I believe Ben Shapiro, it was like 6 or 7 years ago, it was leaked or it came out that he got a meal with Mark Zuckerberg, which I think, of course, Mark probably leads more left on many of these issues, but Mark used to be very staunch or very adamant about preserving the First Amendment and giving free speech and making it an open platform. I think the issue in that regard is that a lot of the managers he hired, a lot of people he hired, didn't so much believe in that sentiment, which, again, is one of the issues when growing a company. When you're hiring leadership and you're hiring middle managers, they're starting to do things their own way that go against your company's values or what the values that you are trying to do embolden and inspire. So it'll be interesting to see. I believe Jeremy also did call the CEO of Google to actually, in an attempt to not negotiate, but to plead with them not to demonetize Louder with Crowder. Because again, not only is Google creating their own competition, aka Rumble, which I also post a show on, but it's one of those issues where it's not good for society, in my belief. Again, I'm not a doctor, but if you click the subscribe button, it may fix my stuttering. It's not a guarantee, I'm just saying it can't hurt. Why not try it out? Now, in terms of the Google demonetizing Steven Crowder, he is one of the largest conservative YouTubers ever. And by silencing him, you're shutting down the conversation. And again, sunlight is the best disinfectant. I think the best conversations is when you allow all sides to speak their opinions, let it be known, and then have that debate and let the best ideals run to the surface. But nevertheless, I'll get back to the comments. Someone by the name of Lifting Libertarian, which A+ for marketing, pictures of someone lifting. Straight to the point. This person says, quote, "Jesus, my guy, stop fighting each other, let it go," unquote, getting 948 likes. Someone by the name of Taylor Henson saying, quote, "What a petty and frankly R-word post," unquote. The R-word is someone who is mentally disabled. So they said the actual word. I chose not to. And this person got 1.5 thousand likes. Let's see here. Jeff in Florida says, quote, This is so childish. This type of discord contributed to not renewing my DW subscription. What happened to the age-old saying, if you don't have something to say, nice to say, ... unquote. Person got 272 likes. Let's see here. James Fishback says, quote, let it go. This is huge. Break bread and pray for the families lost in the hate crime, unquote. Getting 354 likes. Someone by name of Salty Cracker, which, again, A+ Marketing is a cartoon of a cracker with some salt on it. Although it has hands, and crackers don't have hands in the food section of the store. The crackers, it might be quite horrifying if they did. So a little deceptive advertising, but I'll allow it. This person simply says, dumb, getting 678 likes. Let's see here. Tim the Tool Man says, quote, what an odd way to say thank you. Hope this article you wrote about our leak gets you all the clicks of those website sponsors. We just sell mugs, unquote. Getting 874 likes. Let's see. Hope this article you wrote about our leak. Oh, interesting enough. So his handle is ToolmanTim LWC. Website sponsors. We just sell mugs. And that is also a different methodology. So he's talking about selling mugs in regards, as opposed to the sponsors. And the Daily Wire, their business model is built on using a myriad of sponsors. If you watch their show, they have multiple ad breaks for the show. Now, Myler Crowder, they're much more selective. Instead of, you could argue it's kind of the business methodology of quantity versus quality. Now, Myler Crowder, they might only have one sponsor, but they make extremely creative advertisements. I mean, some of the most creative advertisements you've seen, or I've seen, is when they do an advertisement. I believe one is my favorite one is when they made one for a building bar company or a protein bar company, and it was almost as it was a whole production. Which again, there's a big risk to that in terms of there's a high cost associated with that, but I think it's very memorable, and I think those advertisements are very effective because of that. You're going to remember it, and it's going to be much more effective than a simple traditional ad read. Though this is also sponsored by Topping Technologies. I'll probably do some creative ads maybe in 2024 about that. But nevertheless, when you say about the mugs, one of the biggest upsides and one of the biggest, most important things about Steven Crowder and his business is Mug Club. He literally built the business by having a subscription service around selling the mugs. It's become iconic. And the story broke, or they were able to release the story because one of the club members was able to get access to the manifesto data. So not only is he building a business, but he's building a whole community of allowing more information to be out there. So that's a very important point in differences between the businesses. And my 3 cents, I think one of the reasons why you didn't see a merger or a business agreement between two companies is that they had a lot of different business ideals, the different business philosophies that were kind of contradictory. One wants to have 5 or 7 ad reads per video. One just wants to have one per video. I think there's a lot of cultural differences that led to the end result of not having that merger. Or not merger, rather, the business relationship. Now let's go back to the comment section and get a couple more in here. Dude Staff EDMEE says, quote, the hell, dude? Delete this and try again, unquote, getting 573 likes. Someone by the name of C simply says, unnecessary, unquote, getting 574 likes. JD Sharp says, quote, why are you trying to distract them and downplay a blatant anti-white hate crime, unquote. 745 likes. Rip Rhinus says, quote, I would point out you just did the very thing you accused him of doing, unquote, getting 590 likes. Ralph Munoz says, quote, but credit where credit is due. Jesus Christ, are little kids managing these companies now? Just say the last sentence. He landed a huge important scoop. Be a man, unquote. I got 760 likes. Spitfire says, quote, you are so juvenile and behaving like a scorned woman, unquote. Got 1,000 likes. I'm trying to see if there's one of the other topic comments here. Rocco Luciente says, quote, he's such a bad guy, but you have thrown 7 insults at him before crediting him with breaking a massive and consequential story. This just makes you look bad, unquote, getting 473 likes. Tyler says, quote, "You just can't admit Crowder was right about YouTube," unquote, getting 135 likes. Which, yes, I think Crowder was spot on with the YouTube being biased as all hell. They literally not just demonetized his channel for speaking the truth, but in this case, after Crowder released this groundbreaking story that none of the traditional legacy media outlets are touching with a 10-foot pole, quite the opposite. This is an antithesis. All the major media outlets are ignoring it, and they actually have the mainstream social media companies completely censoring it. So YouTube is now censoring that content, which furthers the point of why you need to build third-party platforms and different platforms such as Rumble, which you can also find this show on as well. Let's see. Facts over feelings says, quote, "Mug Club and LWC is some of the best political news and entertainment media around. Been watching LWC way before it was picked up by the Blaze TV. Now that he is on his own, I would recommend subscribing," end quote. Getting 113 likes. And I'm scrolling hard to try to see if there's more supportive comments for this particular tweet from Jeremy. Do one or two more. Garrett Henson says, quote, "I'm a Daily Wire Plus subscriber, but this post reads like you're still upset you couldn't get your deal done to get Crowder at the Daily Wire. Move on and just give credit where credit is due." Got 101 likes. 101. Let's see here. Q the Libertine says, quote, "I just watched it and I didn't see any of this," unquote, getting 105 likes, which I believe this person is referencing the point at which Jeremy is claiming that Crowder took a jab at the Daily Wire, apparently. I'm trying to find if there's... I'm scrolling hard, folks. There are lots of comments. Yeah, I think Jeremy just got ratioed on this completely. I'm not seeing a lot of positive. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, pretty much everyone in the comments, I'd say 97% of these. Let's see. Yeah, I'd say 98% of these comments are all against Jeremy and or directly applauding Steven Crowder for breaking the story. So again, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I know they're both men of faith, and I'd hope, I don't know, someday, it's kind of cliche to say bury the axe, but again, both organizations, both companies are making huge positive impacts in the culture war and the media war, where we do need more media alternatives. The traditional ones aren't doing their jobs. Lord knows CNN's never going to break a story like this. I think it's one of those issues where Jeremy was certainly ratioed, as the youth might say. It'll be interesting to see at the end of the day, when do they shake hands and kind of get back to things as usual. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but in terms of making the dent in the universe, I mean, Crowder just broke the story of the century. It'll be interesting to see. There's a phenomenon where the more try to suppress data or censor something, the more it moves around. So I can't help but think this unfortunately, the incident with the Nashville shooter, I can't help but think this is just YouTube and all these social media companies trying to suppress the story. It's just going to add fire, or rather, add water to the oil fire, which is interestingly enough, that's how the fire goes even greater and becomes stronger. So let me know in the comments, do you think, because of how much censorship is being put on the specific manifesto, will it have the opposite effect and actually make it even more talked about at the water cooler at work? Will it actually spread people to have more of an incentive to talk more about it? It'd be fascinating here, but as I always say, time shall tell. Thank you everyone for taking time to tune in today, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of November. So if you can click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a comment is a great way to help me know what I need to improve on in terms of slowing down my rate of speech, as well as working on my enunciation and decreasing my stuttering. Again, clicking the button may very well cure those things. It'll be interesting to see, but time shall tell. And lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.